Welcome to the Lemonade Car Show. I'm your host, Lorraine Sommerfeld. Today I'm joined by Georgini, the president of the APA, and Chris Muir. He's our mechanic and professor at Centennial College. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good Thank you. Here.
Let's talk about what's going on in the industry that you would like to update us on, George.
Well, Marketplace had a recent investigation of auto repair and the relationship between the customer and the service advisor when you get to the counter.
Okay, it's notoriously fraught and historically...
No, it's not notorious. Most people think that the advisor is sort of like a doctor or somebody that is going to make recommendations. I think people know that there are problems with outcomes of car repairs, but usually you blame the mechanic who worked on the car. Marketplace took a different take on it, and they looked at what happens when you walk into the service counter.
So this is the point person, the person you talk to who is explaining and maybe dialing back the jargon and making it into plain English for you, who I've come to, you want to love and trust them because they're your interpreter in this world.
Yes, and often they're dressed in a uniform. And the general thing in the repair industry is to blame the techs for the bad repair outcomes. But people don't realize the person at the counter actually might be commission-based, and that's what Marketplace talked about.
The majority of them, we call them service advisors or service staff or counter staff. The majority of them are commission-based,
so that's
as far as my history goes.
How about in an independent?
In an independent, usually
like
you're going to get either somebody that's employed directly and paid hourly. There's only generally going to be one of them. A lot of the time they're a family. In the small industries that I've been in, it's actually the mechanic that you're talking to or one of the owners. So there's not generally a role for them that can be afforded to be paid for. Inside of a dealership, when you're running 10 plus bays, you'll have one or two service advisors, obviously to meet all the requirements as far as hours go. And they are generally, in my experience, paid a base salary, which is startlingly low and bonused out on what they sell.
So what do they sell? Like, how does that work exactly? I come in to see you, I sell one an oil change.
They get a percentage. They get a percentage of parts and services sold through the service department or over the service counter that is on a work order, and it varies as far as the percentage goes and how their bonus works out. Sometimes they're tiered. If you sell over this amount, you get an extra couple dollars on your bonus check. So there's certainly some incentive to sell, and some of them, like any industry in which you're singing for your paycheck, will be dishonest just to make sure that there's food on the table.
And that's what Marketplace found, was the upselling.
That was the concern that they found, yeah. Typically, like, is that why you get all those fuel injector flush and oil treatment or gas treatments?
Some of it's the advisor. Most of them have not got a trade certificate or a lot of history in the industry besides being that service advisor role. Some of it's the mechanic that's trying to eat as well off of, again, a commission-based pay structure where they don't even get a base salary. They are just strictly commission on what they've sold. So they'll sell it to the service advisor, and the service advisor will turn around and sell it to you. Or you might see management getting particularly aggressive on, we need a whole bunch of fuel injector flushes, so they ask everybody and see what sticks.
I was
going to ask you one last thing. What Marketplace showed as well is that the advisor in their case, which was a Honda with the Takata airbag recall, missed the recall. Why would that happen?
Because they didn't use the tools that they have provided for them, and they were simply after the money. They didn't check the history of the vehicle. They didn't check the recall history. Most major auto manufacturers...
They wouldn't get money for recommending a recall?
No, absolutely not. A lot of the time they're not bonused on warranty.
Oh, I see. All right.
And a lot of those don't even have the parts for that recall.
Well, now Honda does.
Does it?
Yeah, no. In this case, some Honda dealers are sitting on pallets of
Certainly a lot of these advisors don't get bonused on warranty or something that isn't customer pay. Absolutely.
Well, one of the most common complaints I hear is people, there's service packages and they say at this many months or this mileage, you need this done. And they go, my manual doesn't say that. The manufacturer's dictating one thing and the dealer is suggesting another, and there's a lot of pressure on that.
That's completely true.
And I tell people, and we all tell them, read your manual. Go by your owner's manual. That's what...
It's not that easy to read.
No,
if you're not into cars, it's technical. It's like...
But for intervals, for changes,
and things
like that.
The manuals are not that easy
But
sometimes.
The threat that comes through frequently, though, with these packages is that you will endanger your warranty if you don't do this, and that's not true.
That's not true at all.
The manufacturer's the
Every
warrantor.
model has unique service characteristics. or service requirements. And what you should be doing is opening up your manual and using the severe maintenance schedule. There's going to be two schedules. Use the severe maintenance schedule because we see extreme temperature changes and we have humid days and we have extreme elevation changes according to the manufacturer. So if you follow your severe maintenance schedule, you will be absolutely fine, and you're going to find it doesn't say flush your injectors. It doesn't say change your brake fluid once a year. It doesn't say a whole bunch of this stuff that the dealer does try and upsell you right there on the counter.
So educate yourself, know your vehicle, read the manual, get help reading it if you need help to interpret it, but don't feel pressured into some of these
you
upsells
won't even
that are
feel the
possible.
pressure. They're smart.
If you're
Not
smart.
like that, but you need to go in with an idea that on the scheduled work, that you pull out the schedule and you say, you point to the page and say, I want this particular thing. It's a little different if you need a repair, where you have a problem. In that case, you should not be the technician.
But
What you do is you
maintenance is-
describe the symptom as well as you can,
Yes.
and then leave it to the expert to find it.
Thanks, George. We'll be back with more Lemonade in a moment. Welcome back to the Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by Vic. We're joined now by Chris Wood with Excellence Auto and Georgie Need, the president of the APA. Chris, for years now, you've been our body guy, telling viewers how to maintain body work and how to have collisions taken care of. You've recently moved into another area of the same industry, and I find it really fascinating. We've talked frequently about how important it is to get collision repairs done properly. Can you tell us what you were just outlining in the break was fascinating.
Okay, so right now I'm considered a repair plan manager. What that means is that I have a department that when the car's in an accident and the customer brings it or a tow truck brings it, we call it blueprinting, where we actually assess all the damage. We try to capture every part, every misalignment, and every issue that's happened in the collision, so that once I take this car apart, I have everything detailed and I can write a proper estimate, actually our actual repair plan, so that I have everything in detail and I don't miss anything.
How's that different from like a regular body estimate, where where a camera body shop might have a video link that goes directly to the insurance appraiser? There's those exploded diagrams with all the parts that come out.
Yeah. So the thing is with that is that every car is different and every accident's different. Sometimes these cars are built so different these days, is that you could get hit in the front and there could be something far in the right corner that could be damaged. You could miss that. All those diagrams and everything are great, but most of the time we like to capture everything hand-on and make sure that we can see every part, because when you're in an accident, it's hard to see broken parts, part numbers. There's so many different cars these days for the same brand or same model. There could be a different air duct for the same car. It could be 3 different. If we order the wrong part, that part could be back ordered and it could cost the customer 3 days or 3 weeks out of a car that should have only taken like a 2-day repair.
How do we reconcile what an insurance adjuster is telling us when they're doing their job and what somebody like you is saying when you've actually got down and torn it apart? Because there's always this chasm in between what the insurance is saying and what sometimes our body people or repair people are saying.
So we try to build a good relationship with our insurance companies out there and adjusters. More or less I see the same people, and I like to try to educate them, because at the end of the day they're not technicians, they're not repair plan managers. They work for an insurance company, and I would accept that they would take my word and I can explain and educate them how I'm fixing the vehicle and why this part needs to be changed or it could be repaired versus replaced. It's more or less, they just have to kind of work with us, that's all. I mean, fair is fair, and they should take, the shop's word. If we need something, we have to explain it to them, just educate them on how exactly things have to work.
George, what do you say when consumers are given a list of approved shops from a insurance place, but they want to go to their own? And again, that opens up another line of miscommunication sometime. How do we, what should they be doing? And is there ever a reason to step outside what they've been told to do?
Well, it is your, you have the freedom to use your own shop. The insurance company basically is paying for the repair. They're not actually doing the repair. The concern we have with what's called the preferred shop system, the theory could be good, that the insurance company checked out who it is, they have a relationship with them, they know that if something goes wrong, they just have to make a phone call and it will be taken care of. But underneath all of that, I guess greed took over, and the preferred shop relationship became a way of telling a shop, look, we're going to pay you less, but we're going to send you all of this business. And then sometimes the shop is squeezed and you're not getting a better quality repair, you're just getting a generic repair. And when the problem occurred, the insurance company is not ready to make that phone call for you. They leave you alone with the shop. They wash their hands of the relationship. So it's not a bad thing to have a list when you don't know who to go to. I think that's good. But if you actually do have a shop, and Chris, you can take over because you know this area better than I do, but if you have a shop where you have good reason to believe you'll get good work, then you could fight to use them, and you should be allowed to do that.
Yeah, that's totally true. I have clients all the time being sent to other shops, and I have to kind of explain why it's beneficial to take it to our shop or to another certified specialist in a certain brand. It's a tough game for a customer, and I feel that most of the customers are very scared to bring it to a shop that's not on the list because the insurance is kind of bullying them. Most of the time, these vehicles, I think the industry is changing so fast. I don't think the insurance companies are quite keeping up to these levels of when there's a luxury brand or a new technology. It's getting more expensive to repair cars, and I don't think they're quite on board in understanding that yet. It's really expensive to repair cars these days with all the technology.
And it's also really expensive to repair them wrong.
Of course.
or not properly the first time out.
100%.
And when you talk about this, sorry, go ahead.
One of the techniques insurance uses, they'll ask the shop for a discount. I don't know what it is for a preferred shop. Do you have to give them money back? Not you personally, but I mean.
I don't. I think the labor rate is actually a little lower in a. Yeah. So if you're at
like bulk rate.
Yeah.
And it will vary depending on the province as well. Yeah. But what they will do is they'll ask the shop to give extra freebies, so a free loaner car, or maybe an extra warranty, and that will be the selling point. Now, in theory, if those freebies were arrived at by agreement between the parties, I would say, well, maybe. But actually what really happens is the insurance company says, if you want to be preferred, we're taking X dollars off an hour on what we're paying you, and you're going to give the customer a warranty. So they squeeze the body shop. It's not a bargaining between equals.
It's more volume, less...
in theory, more volume. In practice, at some point, they're taking away your bread and butter.
Exactly.
And again, there are provinces that are worse, some are better. BC, British Columbia, in my view, the body shops have a much richer relationship because it's one government payer. It's Insurance Corporation in British Columbia, whereas in Quebec, it's the opposite. It's private insurance for the collision side, and they pay much lower than what the body shops would like to charge.
Like anything else as consumers, stay informed, talk to people like Chris, and then talk to your adjusters. That's all the time we have for this segment. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to the Lemonade Car Show. I'm your host, Lorraine Sommerfeld. Joining me now is Chris Muir, our mechanic, and Chris Wood returns. Two excellent mechanics, body and soul, should we call it that?
Sure, we'll call it that.
Chris, I have a question that's come in that I get all the time, and I'm sure you do too. Scuffed fender in a parking lot. You look at it, you think no big deal. You take it in for estimate, you hear $600, $800, and then I get a note saying, I think they're ripping me off, or APA gets a note. Why is it so expensive for something that looks like a nothing?
Okay, so in the situation like that, we have to look at the scuff. Has the scuff gone through the clear coat? Has it gone through the base coat? Is it dented? There's quite a few things you need to really look at. Does this piece have to be replaced? Is it plastic? And in order to assess the damage properly, you have to have a trained person go out with the client and explain to them, so if it's gone through the clear, you're going to have to refinish this, the repair time, and just explain to them, educate them what you're going to do, how you're going to repair it, and it'll justify the price of what you're going to give them. And that should always never happen to have a letter go to the APA if you can actually justify and educate the client on what's happened here. because you know it happens every day. I have clients come in, and it's not cheap to fix the car these days. The material's expensive, the labor, and it has to be done properly as well.
I spent 8 hours in a body shop one day fixing a scuff, and it was 8 hours, and
Yeah.
I was hindering more than I was helping. But I finally understood the man hours and the precision to make it look good. Anyone
Yeah.
can make it look bad. Sometimes there's cheaper methods on the market. What do you think of those cheaper methods?
Cheaper methods, as in paintless dent removal, is excellent. If you have a real trained PDR individual, it'll save you a lot of money, because most of the money involved in scuffs and things like that is the material of the paint. The paint is expensive. If you could get a guy that could, if the scuff is like polishable, that can come out. If you have a proper trained tech that can polish it, that knows how to deal with it, you can save them half that cost. And it's all it is in the beginning when the person comes to your shop. It's the person that meets with them and is trained and knows exactly how to deal and what's the best repair procedure for the car and the customer.
So you might have an option.
Yeah,
You always have an
options.
option,
Yeah.
yeah.
You have to educate them, but you also have to be trained to know. And that's a problem with this industry, because a lot of people in the front, advisors, aren't fully educated on how to repair that piece properly. They don't know the material. They don't know if it's gone past the clear, the base. It's all on him in the beginning to either sell them the job, educate them, and actually make that car repaired properly.
We're coming into the time of year where we're going to see damage from salt and sap and all kinds of things to paint as well as underneath. Chris, what do you tell people if they come in to get their car fixed underneath, but sometimes the clear coat, you see it's giving way from not corrosion, but some acidic something is
elements.
eating at it. Yeah.
It's either getting blasted off from road dirt, or it's starting to corrode underneath and flaking off.
Is that going to lead to corrosion?
Of course it does. Anytime we have an exposed metal, it's going to corrode. Iron oxide is actually the oxidization, or the atmosphere getting to the metal and burning it, having a chemical reaction.
Is that why you shouldn't delay getting things fixed? If a bit of rust starts, can you stop
It's going to propagate underneath, and I mean, you're obviously better to talk about it, but my rule of thumb, even at a dealer level, was if you can see it stopping at the paint, it's at least an inch underneath that paint.
Yeah, it's not good to leave any type of corrosion on any pieces or panels. It'll just end up causing you more headaches in the future.
Is it sometimes, if you've got, especially a mass market vehicle like a minivan, just asking for a friend here, and you've got some corrosion starting on one of the fenders, can you just go to a Wreckers and get that piece? When they're so popular, there's so many of them on the road. Is that an option instead of repairing rust?
For a do-it-yourselfer, it certainly could be if you can remove the fender.
Yeah.
If it's something like a rear quarter on a car, you have to actually weld those back on. Yeah. So, but a front fender, it's by all means possible. But when you go to hang it back up, or if you break a clip, it may not look the outcome may not be what you want or expect.
And you also got to be careful when you're going to source out used parts, because you don't know where that part has been or what's been done to it. It could have like an inch of body filler on it. It could have, the clear coat could be very, mediocre, and you're just going to run into that same problem again.
And don't ever expect that panel that you got that's the same color as your car is actually going to be the same color as your car. There's sun fade, there's fallout, there's all kinds of environmental damage that can happen to the finish on the paint. So you may put a red panel on a red car, and that panel could look pink on your red
We've
car.
all seen some of those driving around. Well, I learned that there was a Honda we were working on, and there's something, depending on the factory and the day, and all these things
Just
that
the way
factored
the
into.
paint was tinted that
everything.
particular day.
Because I think I don't know how many kinds of silver there are. We found out that day there's hundreds of kinds of silver. We'll be back after this message for more Lemonade. Welcome back to the Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by Omvic. I'm with Chris Muir and Chris Wood, the Chris twins. Okay, I have a question. Often in a collision, there's mechanical damage as well as body damage. Do you have to communicate with each other? Obviously you do, but how does that happen? Does it go through the adjuster? Is the consumer supposed to be in between picking one and then the other? Do you have networks between each other that you do? How does it start?
That's a good question. I'll tell you something that happened recently. I actually have a car come to the shop. The wheel was hit. Well, the front end was hit, but you could see that there was quite a scuff on the wheel. We lift it up, we look at it, the insurance comes. We can't, as body techs, justify a mechanical part to be replaced unless I visually see it, or if it goes onto an alignment rack, where the service team comes in. So in this case, the insurance adjuster had come out to see the car. I had written my estimate on the bodywork, and I can't just put I need a subframe, tie rod, because I can't see if it's bent because it's very minor. So I'm not going to put something on there that I don't know for a fact. That's just not right. So what we did was we sent it out to the mechanical first before we even started to give the estimate to the appraiser, and we got all the stuff that we needed on the estimate from the actual service team. So I have to coordinate with the mechanic specializing in alignment and front ends. He'll justify to me why this piece has to be changed. He'll show me exactly. Then I can prove that to the insurance, and I say, this is exactly why I need this, this, and this. And there's no questions. The car gets brought back with the right parts put on. We do the body work. Customer's happy. Everybody wins.
So when you get a car like this brought to you, is this why it takes so long sometimes to get?
A lot of the time it is, yeah. The body shop's got to do their part, and sometimes we have to interject right in the middle of that. So they're part way through the repair, we get the car, we have to make the mechanical repairs to it and send it back to the body guys. We are both mechanics of types. This gentleman's a bodyman, I am a service mechanic, and we have two very unique licenses, and those services will overlap at times, but there's other times where we go, whoa, this is not my forte, you got to send it to the professional.
Yeah.
What's the most number of techs that can be involved? Does that pretty much cover it off? Is there any other things that have to happen? Or?
It depends on what facility, how your facility works. Obviously, you could have an assembler, you could have a front-end mechanic, you could have a frame guy, aluminum specialist. It's all on how your facility coordinates with the specialized people. These days now, I strongly recommend that everybody has their specialty. That's how I get the car repaired properly. I have an aluminum guy for an aluminum car. I have a mechanic for the mechanical part. I have a panel beating guy for panels. And I figure service technician, maybe he's front end, mechanic, alignment. They know their job in and out. So at the end of the day, the consumer is not going to worry about some panel beater putting on their steering rack. He doesn't do it every day. Why should he do it on this car? He can follow the procedures, but he doesn't know, and he's maybe not licensed for that. Always find a specialist in each facility. That's how we're doing it these days, because these cars are very technical.
And it's another reason on your insurance, look and see that you have rental coverage, because your car could be out of your hands for a considerable amount of time, even if you see an estimate that says 10 hours for this. It's not 10 hours. Because it could be at different shops.
Yeah, if I send the car to Chris, I want to coordinate to find out exactly, like, if these parts are back ordered, I'm going to send it to the service center first, get all that work done if I can, and bring it back. At that time, that part for me is there. The car gets done efficiently, and the customer is not out of rental. The insurance is happy. They've X number of days is fulfilled. It's all in how you approach the repair plan.
And those estimates where it says 10 hours, they don't account for time that it's waiting, cure time for product, transportation time, queue time going from one shop to another. It doesn't account for any of that. So 10 hours can take 5 days very easily.
It can be really confusing. And the problem is after a collision, I refuse to call them accidents, sorry. After collisions, you have to make all these decisions rapidly, and and it can be very confusing.
It's stressful.
Both of you must see some people. You can get a little distraught.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's if you're lucky enough not to be cracked up yourself. If it's just your car that's wrecked. Do you ever see cars? Actually, this is probably too big a question for this, but cars that you wouldn't have written off that the insurance is writing off because of the cost of electronics now.
I've seen cars that insurance is written off because the book value is startlingly low, and the repair cost exceeds that value, where repairing the car might be a couple $1,000s, but it exceeds what the insurance deems as an acceptable loss.
Here's a good one for you. So you have your car parked, you're out playing soccer, somebody hits it really hard. Your car's mint condition, it's a 2008, we're in 2017, you've treated this car, serviced it, everything's beautiful in this car, it got hit. Not your fault, oh, you're out of a car now. Bring it to the shop, the appraiser assesses the damage, the book value obviously is here, the repair value is here, car's a write-off. Now he loses a lot of money, loses his car, and he fights to have this car repaired because he says, I've put this car through service, it's mint. But you're telling me because this part is this much money and my car is worth this much money, now I can't even buy a car anywhere near this quality. So what does he do? Can we repair this car? Can I pay it out of my pocket? And you know, that's the case. And
That's one of the downsides. Thank you, Chris Wood and Chris Muir. That's all the time we have for Lemonade. Thanks to Onvik and Cram. We'll see you next time.